Barachim Habarim LeYom Shishi. Welcome to the sixth day, Friday. I'm Stephen Bruck. This is Messianic Moment Ministries, and thank you for being here. This weekend, of course, on Shabbat, we read the next Parashah, which is Lecha. And in this Parashah, we are introduced to Abraham. We're told how he was called out of Ur and traveled to a place he did not know, trusting in the Lord to guide him. His travels at one point led to Egypt, which was during a famine, where Sarah was taken as wife to the Pharaoh, but she was not shamed because God intervened. This happened twice during Abraham's travels, and mainly because he kept asking Sarah, in order to protect his life, to say she was his sister and not his wife. He took his nephew Lot with him when he left Ur, and they found that their individual possessions were getting so large they were actually intermixing, and so in order to keep peace between them, Abraham says to Lot, pick which way you want to go. Lot chose to go to the better land, which was near Sodom, and Abraham went in the opposite direction. Well, of course, later we read how Sodom and Gomorrah were attacked and many people taken captive, including Lot and his family. Abraham learns about it, takes his people, and he goes and he rescues not just Lot, but everybody else, and returns them all to their homes. After this, God makes a covenant with Abraham, telling him that he will have a son and that his descendants will be a blessing to the world. Sarah, though, at this point still childless, tells Abraham to have a child for her through Hagar, her handmaiden, which he does, and Ishmael, the father of the Arab nations, is born. Now, Ishmael is 13 years old and Abraham 99 years old when God again comes to Abraham and says that at this time next year, Abraham will have a son through Sarah. And he orders Abraham to circumcise all the men as a sign of the covenant between God and Abraham's descendants forever, which Abraham does that very day. There is just too much in this parasha to cover in a single message, and as I was thinking of what to say, what message God might want me to say, I looked at the Haftorah reading. Right, now, some of you may not know what the Haftorah is. Basically, it's a reading from one of the other books of the Tanakh, which is related to the Torah reading. It's read after the Torah reading is done and before the rabbi gives his drash. Today's Haftorah is in Isaiah, chapter 40, 27 through 41:16. And in this section of Isaiah, he's giving comfort to the exiled Jews, reminding them that God's promises are forever and trustworthy. So even in the despair of their exile, they can be confident that God has not forgotten them and has plans for their return to Israel. And from this reading, I think I kind of know what I'm supposed to talk about today. God doesn't work on a timetable that we design. His timing is always perfect. His rescue is always just when it's needed, and he knows best what we need. We, for our part, must maintain faith and trust in God despite whatever horrific events may be occurring in the world. God promised Abraham that his descendants would be a blessing to the world, and that promise has been fulfilled many times. Did you know the Jewish population today is throughout the world is roughly 2 out of every 1,000 people? Yet nearly 28% of all Nobel Prizes ever awarded have been awarded to Jews. Israel today is a world leader in all types of technology, from cyber safety to agriculture to medical advancements. For instance, in the midst of the current corona pandemic, which is causing people to wear protective face masks, did you know that Israel has developed a mask that is guaranteed to kill the coronavirus? It's a reusable mask and it's guaranteed for an entire year. If you're interested, go to synoviatech.com. You can look it up in the written message on the website. Now, did you know also that Israel has developed a system for agriculture that can pull water right out of the air, even in the desert? I mean, they turned a desert into a garden, for Pete's sakes. They've developed systems for communication, computers, mathematics. They've got energy systems. They developed a solar rooftop system for heating water. They actually developed this way to farm fish without needing to be near a water source. They have a drip irrigation system for growing water in a waterless environment. They've developed military defense systems. They even developed a bionic walking assistance system that allows paraplegics to stand, walk, and even go upstairs. Did you know the instant messaging system that is used by AOL was first developed by an Israeli? And there are many, many other inventions developed by Israelis in and out of Israel, which have been helpful to humanity. Oh, and let's not forget the greatest blessing ever delivered to any peoples or nations, the Messiah. That's right. He's a descendant of Abraham too. So when we go through Tsuris, which is Yiddish for troubles, as we are going through right now with COVID, elections in the USA, and worldwide invasion of satanic influences and terrorism, we can take comfort knowing that no matter how hard the world, meaning Satan, tries to destroy the Jews, God will not allow that to happen. And as long as there are Jews in the world, there will be blessings for the world. For those who hate Jews and want to see Israel destroyed, not only is that like killing the goose that lays the golden eggs, but God also told Abraham in Genesis 12:3 that those who curse his descendants will themselves be cursed. So maybe you should think twice before planning to destroy Israel. Look at all the mighty nations throughout history that have attacked and tried to destroy God's chosen people. Let's look at the Assyrians. They're gone. The Babylonians, they're gone. Greece, during the time of Alexander the Great, during Hellenism, tried to destroy Judaism. And look at Greece now. Europe sent the Crusaders, who killed thousands and thousands of Jews, and look at where Europe is now. During the Spanish Inquisition, Spain was a world power, but they slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Jews who refused to convert, and now they're a poor and impotent nation. The Nazis, they tried to kill off the Jews, and although they're not completely gone, they're pretty much destroyed. And despite the many attempts by Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, not to mention the other Arab nations that all surround little Israel, every time they come against Israel, they get their tuchus beat. The only reason, if you ask me, that these Arab nations are still around is because of God's promise to Hagar, and because they are Ishmael's descendants, and thereby they're also descendants of Abraham. Who knows? Maybe if the Arabs would ever just stop trying to destroy their Jewish brothers and work with them, then the Arabs would also be a blessing to the world. As it is now, through the Arab nations, well, they're just a bane to humanity. They gave birth to Hamas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist organizations that are invading and causing trouble throughout Europe and the United States. God's promises are 1,000% trustworthy and dependable. And when we maintain our faith in God, we will be blessed. Maybe not always in this plane of existence, but certainly throughout eternity. Which, after all, it's what I look forward to. Don't you? Well, thank you for being here. Please subscribe, click the icon here, go back to the website, click the subscribe button in the right margin, share these messages with others, and I always welcome your comments. So until next time, Hitrot and Shabbat Shalom.